Welcome to another episode of Tekoa Talks. We are getting to hear today a little bit of Lauren's story. As a church, we are talking about sharing our faith, sharing the good news of what Jesus has for us. And so we're taking a couple weeks, Lauren and I, to share a little bit about our journeys and how other people shared their faith with us, how other people shared their experience, their journey, their story with us. As a church, we believe stories have such an important part to play. And as we hear somebody else's story, we can learn about God. We can learn about our journey from theirs. And so today we have Pastor Lauren, who's going to be sharing a little bit with us. Lauren, do you want to start with just a little bit of your journey and how you came to faith, and if there was anybody that was instrumental to that journey?
Yeah, so for me, I didn't grow up in a traditional faith-based home. God was talked about on Easter. If we were with my grandma, we would go to mass with her, or there were certain times of the year with certain people that we would be around faith, but it was not a part of the daily, every ins and outs of life. And childhood was pretty crazy. And when I was 13, we moved in with my dad, and I had a really good friend. The year before, it was kind of crazy, but we got placed in all the classes together. So block schedule, two people in the same, it's kind of crazy. But our last names were almost the same on the alphabet. So statistically speaking, this was not really possible. But through that year, we became pretty good friends, even though it didn't we ran in different circles and weren't the most in common. But one of the amazing things about our friendship, when all the things happened with my parents and we moved in with my dad, she started showing up in ways that I never anticipated. In the end of 7th grade, I'd hurt my back and I missed all the classes. And so she started showing up with all my homework. And then that summer, she was inviting me over for pool parties and all these different things. And so for me, she played such a pivotal role in showing me what the body of Christ is supposed to be doing, that we had very different family dynamics. Not everything made sense, and she couldn't understand because she'd never lived through it, but she showed up and she loved me through it. And so she has been such a constant through my life, through moving to different countries, to being in different places, but always being a safe person to be there. But it was started in 7th grade. I mean, we were little teenagers going through all the craziness of life. But showing up in ways that I didn't even realize I needed. And she talked about her faith. She talked about church. They were a every Sunday family. She was also in bell choir and all the other things.
Bell choir, wait, what is that?
Yeah. Handbell choir. So you had multiple people that had different bells that made different sounds, and together they would play music. And so I went to handbell concerts. That was a thing. I think it still is a thing. I don't know. I apologize if you're in handbell choir. It's a cool thing. But that was something that was such an integral part of her life. And so she talked about it, but it was never okay, we can't be friends because you don't believe, or we can't be friends because you don't go to my church, or we can't be, there was none of that. But she loved me so much, and her family loved me so much. I mean, all through high school, there were so many times that I was at her house for family dinners or different things. I distinctly remember there was a time too where I was literally over there every week for dinner, and it was a ritual. Tuesday nights were dinner with Lauren. And so that was just so special that they wrapped me and loved me, but they showed me what it was like to be a believer, not just talking about it. And that profoundly shaped my faith.
So I know for you as well that as you kind of went through life, there was a period of life where you weren't following God, where church and faith wasn't really a part of your life anymore. Was there anything that was pivotal or instrumental in your shift to going back to the church, going back to God? And I mean, at this point, now being a pastor and working at a church, obviously something changed.
Yeah. So at that time, my husband and I had been married for a couple of years, and it was so crazy, but everybody in our life around us started going back to church. So my best friend from home started going back to church. My aunt and my cousin started going back to church. And for some reason that year, I mean, not for some reason, God knew what he was doing. Every other weekend we were visiting somebody and they were going to church. And so part of our weekend visit was, hey, on Sunday, we're going to go to church. Or it was Saturday night. They're hey, tomorrow morning, we're going to church. And so before we knew it, it was not every weekend, but pretty close to a majority of the weekends throughout this year, we were going to church. And in December, my cousin got married. And so we spent some time with my family in San Diego. And so we'd gone to church a couple of times with them. And I remember sitting in the car with my aunt, and she just boldly asked my husband, she was like, so if you guys like found a church back home, would you guys go? And he was like, yeah, I think so. I guess we've been going like all this year, like, sure. And so that began, like, her boldness of asking was then what began the journey of us like officially coming back to church. I started looking for a church online, found one that I thought my husband, who at the time wasn't a believer, would be okay with. And so it began this journey. But it was really cool to see how throughout that year there were these moments of people sharing their faith, people coming back to their faith, and it constantly being around us, that it was like, okay, there's something stirring here. Like there is this calling and this pulling for us, for me to come back and for him to be a part of what this is all about. So
I really like in that too, that those people in your life that were like, well, we go to church on Sundays, you're visiting us for the weekend, instead of being like, okay, we're not going to do this important part of our life while you're here with us. It's like, okay, you're here Sunday morning, we're going to go to church, or whatever, time of the weekend that they went to church, but it's bringing you guys with and not forcing you. I'm sure you could have said no, like we don't want to go with
Right.
you, or we're going to sleep in or whatever. But I think it's just really important to just extend that invitation, because somebody like you and your husband might be actually interested in going, but you need the invitation.
yes, we all need the invitation.
Well, we're glad you joined us. This is a great time of year to be inviting people with you. And I think that invitation with is really key. And it's not a, hey, do this thing on your own. It's, you know what, I'm already doing this and it's good for me. And I think it would be good for you. Check out this with me and either come with me, or let's watch this together, or we'll do this thing together. And so I encourage you guys this week, this month, this Easter even, to invite somebody to be a part of your journey, your faith journey, and share with them. And so make sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button while you're here with us this week, and we hope you have a great week.